Congratulations in purchasing your concrete crack repair kit for leaking foundation walls. Your decision to purchase this kit will save you hundreds of dollars and also make for a very pleasant environment in your basement by keeping water out. You want to make sure that the surface of the wall is brushed so you have no loose material on the wall. Any paint is a good idea to remove. The surface paste creates some heat as it cures, so paint will peel. And like anything else, you don't want to put a surface application over loose or dusty material. The other tip also is you want to make sure that the wall is dry. Inside the wall we're not concerned about. Urethane that you're going to put in the wall reacts to water, so water in the wall is fine. But the surface itself, the surface paste, the black and tan material you see we're about to mix, will not stick to a wet wall. We recommend you lay all your materials out. The surface paste here sets up fairly quickly, and the process just goes smoother if everything's at your fingertips. And do use the gloves. We recommend you use the gloves. It keeps your hands dry and clean. The product will stick to your hands for quite some time. So here we're laying out those surface ports or straws where we're going to inject the urethane through. You space them out about every 10 inches or so, starting 10 inches off the floor. Resist the urge to put a port at the very base of the wall. It's where the crack is thinnest, and it's probably the most difficult place to inject. The urethane will travel down to the base of the wall, so don't be concerned about that. And notice we're only putting down as much as we can mix at any one time. So we're being fairly conservative here about the amount of material we put on. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so you put one part of the tan to one part of the black. Mix it for about a minute until it's uniform in color. And then we're going to put a little bit of product on the base of the port, being careful not to obstruct the hole at the base of the port. And this helps us stick it to the wall, again every about 10 inches or so. It makes it easier to work up and down the wall, closing the rest of the crack off with the paste. So we're going to close the crack in between each of these ports or straws. These are entry ports for the urethane to go into the wall and be trapped. And while it's trapped, it'll pick up moisture in the wall, begin to expand, and do a great job of plugging. You want to be attentive to make sure you cover all of the crack. And when we go to inject, and we'll show you a little bit later, after we've closed off this crack, beginning with this first port at the bottom here, we're going to begin to feed urethane into that port using a cartridge. Looks like a caulking cartridge. And we'll feed it into that first port until we see urethane coming out of the second port, up near the top of the screen. And when the urethane starts coming out of that second port, we will put a cap on that first port and then move up and begin putting urethane in the second port. The urethane is a liquid that once it comes in contact with water expands many times its size, thus filling the crack from front to back and then out into the backfill, which is outside your house. So essentially we've given an 8 or 10 inch deep or thick layer of waterproofing. Much more effective than a surface repair because they tend to just leak again. It's a very permanent way of fixing the wall for yourself. And now when you go to finish that wall, you're going to put in a finished basement. The concern about getting water in that area and ruining some of your carpet and creating a flooding situation or mold has been removed. You safely and effectively closed off any water coming through that crack again. Notice we're paying special attention to seal around the ports because that's where you're injecting. It's the area where there's the most pressure on the ports. And once we're done doing this sealing process, we recommend you wait overnight. Let that surface seal get nice and hard. And then we got a little piece of tape at the top if you want to begin to try to remove the surface seal or pull that surface seal back off the wall when you're done. You certainly can do that. And here's the injection process. The tube has a top to it that you want to cut off. Just to cut the very tip off, leave the thread so that you can screw on this nozzle. And you're going to put this single part urethane into your standard household caulking gun and feed the urethane in through the ports. Now, like we talked about earlier, start with the bottom port. So we're putting on our safety glasses. We don't want it to shoot back at us. Being safe here. And you're going to walk from port to port all the way up the wall. 8 or 10 of the ports. And then you'll see it come out. Sometimes it'll come out the top of the wall, sometimes it won't. But again, we give you 2 tubes of urethane. In this particular case, 2/3 of 1 tube would effectively block that wall. So we give you more than enough urethane in the kit. And the reason for that is to make sure you have a great repair. And you really only need very little urethane in each port, but it's certainly good to put excess in there. We've gone to the second port, filled that first one. Don't fight the ports. If it's not working, move up to the next one. You get a little leak in one of them, move to the next port. And there you can see the finished product. It went in as a amber liquid, and then it builds foam and punches itself out the top of the wall. And that's it. You've effectively repaired that leak using the same system the professionals use, the professional grade urethane, for a permanent repair. And they're showing working some of the surface seal off again. It's not necessarily, it's an optional process. Some people they're going to paint the wall, they like a neat, tidy wall. Most of the time, these ports and surface seal are just left on the wall, especially if you're going to finish over the top of it. You can see how some of the urethane blew itself past the surface seal and started leaking down the wall. And that's just a small residual amount of urethane that comes out there. No concern about it not being effective. There's so much urethane that gets trapped in the wall. That leak is a non-issue. And as you pull this, sometimes you pull that surface seal off, it looks like the crack is back again, but simply that's just urethane got pulled out of the very surface. You can't see the urethane that's actually protecting it, but that's a repaired leak right there. And congratulations.